In this video, I'm gonna teach you 5 of the fastest checkmates in the King's Gambit so that you can win more games in the King's Gambit and demolish your opponents in the fastest way in the King's Gambit. So the King's Gambit starts with the King spawn opening. After that, the opponent must respond E5, which is the most popular response. Also, so many people will fall for this trap because a lot of people already did pawn to E5. And after that, we're gonna go pawn to F4. And in which the most popular move in all of chess games is taking the pawn on F4. We go develop our knight on F3. Well then, if they go here, we can just go bishop to C4 instead of knight to C3, which is different. They will go pawn to G4, which is attacking our knight. They will be tempted again to do that because it is very good for them to attack the knight and try to undevelop the knight. But instead, if they do take the knight, we'll just go knight to C3. Not is even a natural move. There is a checkmate here. And after these few couple of moves after the gambit of F3, well then folks, they might take another pawn on G2, trying to expose our king. If they take our pawn on G2, well then folks, we're gonna go bishop to F7. That's check to the king on E8. And if they take our bishop on F7, well then folks, we're gonna go and take the pawn on F4. A brutal check. Not only they have +6, but we're gonna checkmate on the next few moves because we get the 0.7 plus advantage. Because after king to E8, that's actually mate in 2. They can go to these squares, and a lot of people will go here. We will go and check them with a queen on H5. That is check, pointing to the king. They might go king to E7, and now it's mate in 1. Because after the king moving here, which is the only square that they can move to, well then folks, mate in 1 is here. Queen to E5 is a checkmate to the king, and the king cannot go here, and here because of the queen and the rook, and of course the other queen which also covers some squares, and the queen checking the king. So folks, let's go to the, as we might observe, no doubt you can play this opening. This King's Gambit is so powerful that let's go to the other lines of the checkmate. Checkmate number 2 is coming on the way, which is after this line over here. They might go knight to C6. Well then folks, no problem, we'll just go knight to F3, and if we go there, they might go pawn to D6. We will go bishop to C4, and of course developing both knights over here on this side of the board, and also developing the bishop and the knight. We might go pawn to D3, they will go bishop to G4, and we will go castle with the rook here, trying to develop and try to protect our knight with the rook, and also trying to activate our rook and knowledge their development. We will go knight to F3, C3. After that, they might go knight here, tempting to go there. Well then folks, we're just gonna take the pawn on E5, and if they do take the pawn on E5, we're gonna sacrifice the bishop. Not really a sacrifice, because after they take, we will go knight to E5, checking them on F7. If they go back with the king on G8, well then we'll go and take the bishop on G4, and if they go and take our knight with the knight on G4, well then we'll take it with a queen, and now the queen is pointing to the king. Now the king is pointing to the king. As you may observe, there's a free pawn. But if they do take the free pawn, you know what will happen. Mate in 1. And so folks, this is one of the fastest checkmates on chess, on the King's Gambit. So folks, let's move on to another checkmate line. We're gonna move fast here. After the King's Gambit, they might accept it again, and there's another line here. Okay, so folks, another line here. If they take, which a lot of people again will do, we'll just go knight to F3. If they go G5, we actually can go H4. Not trying to develop H4, which is the baddest move if you played it in the first place in the chessboard. But if you do this over here on this line, well then folks, it's gonna be powerful. Because after H6, if we take your pawn, then they will take our pawn, then we will take their rook. There's quite a disadvantage, so you cannot take this pawn. So they might not do that. So instead, they might go here. But there's another disadvantage, because of the fact that we can just go and advance with the knight. So they might not want to do that, and instead, the last option they might get, which is the very good option for them and try to be safe option, because they cannot go here and try to attack our knight. Well then folks, that is bad for them. Because after this pawn going to F6, we're just gonna go and sacrifice our knight on G5. Which is just insane. Because after sacrificing the knight on G5, well then folks, they might take our knight. And if they take our knight, we will go to queen to H5, checking the king on E8. And if they go king to E7, and after that, they can go knight to F6 or king to E8. But let's first discover knight to F6, which is the most advantageous move. We're just gonna go here. And that's just bad, because they cannot move their knight. Because if they move their knight, their king will be eaten, which is illegal. And after a quick couple moves, we'll just win. We'll just win with +4 points on the computer. But if they don't do that with the knight, because they knowing that they can pin themselves, well then folks, they will go knight king to e8. A lot of things can go there. Because after we check the king, again, on e8, they might go king to e7. We will go queen to e5. After that, they're forced to go there. And then after that, we're just gonna check him with a bishop on c4. That is a direct hit to the king. And now we have 2 pieces according to the king. And the only square that they can go to again is king to g6. And now it's hopeless for the king because it's mate in 5. And mate in 5 for the computer. And that's check to the king. And after this, they will go king to g7. We will go queen to f7. And if they go here, well, then folks, it's mate. Because after this, and then check again on queen to f7, well then folks, they're gonna go king to h6. And it's mate in 2 because of this. So the bishop just opens up the curtains and says hello. Try to checkmate the king on the h6. Well then folks, there's his checkmate because after queen here, which is the only move that they cannot mate checkmate a lot. Well then folks, we'll just take this queen and yeah, it involves a sort of blunder for the black position, but that is mate. That is mate. Let's move on to another checkmate line. We're gonna move fast here. After the king's gambit, they might accept it again, and there's another line here. If we just look at that Lisa's shadow base, this is the popular response, taking with the pawn on f4, first fastest checkmate. So the first fastest checkmate, if they go and take the pawn, we're gonna go knight to f3. And if they go pawn to g5, which they might do because of the fact that they want to weaken our squares of the knight and attack our knight away, and also this is the most advantageous move for black, we're gonna go knight to c3. This is the first fastest trap. We're just gonna develop the knight first, and we got these 2 knights. So keep in mind this trap first, this checkmate, this will lead into checkmate, and if executed perfectly, this will lead into checkmate. So they go pawn to g4. Well then folks, we will go knight to e5, trying to escape from the danger of the pawn. Not only that, we're attacking the pawn on f7. So there is double purpose on this. They will go there and damage us with this check. I mean, look at the pawns is gonna breach it and the queen, but it's not very dangerous. Because according to the computer, we have the utmost advantage to make the opponent lose before us being destroyed. How do we do it? So we're gonna go pawn to e3, and that attacks the queen and also attacks the pawn and counters that pawn. If they go and take the pawn on g3, which they might do, because if we take the pawn on g3, they will take a rook. And so they think that will happen, and so they will do that. But folks, there's another line, because we can go queen takes g4, because after queen takes g4, and if they go over here pawn to g2, thinking that they have succeeded in the game, checking while also attacking this rook, which the pawn will promote, well then folks, they're wrong, because when we take the queen back, it's 5 points for them, and it's not outmatching our trap yet, which is checkmate, which is queen to h5. This is the most advantageous move according to the computer, 0.7 advantage according to us in our side. So folks, there's no doubt you can play this line. And also, if they go over knight to h6, protecting the mate over here, because we're trying to go for mate with a queen on f7, we'll just go pawn to d4, and that just attacks the knight. And we just have the full advantage here. Because after this attack, according to the computer, after d6, which is the best response, we're gonna go bishop to h6, taking the knight first. They will take our knight, we will castle, and then they will take our bishop. So according to the computer, we will take the bishop with a queen on h7, and they will go queen to f3. They still have 5 points. So how do we consume the 5 points they have? We will go queen to g7. They will go rook to f8, and we will go knight to d5, trying to have this attack over here on this board, maybe even trying to fork. And then after that, they might go here, which is the best response, and then we can even sacrifice the knight, but they can't even take the knight because it's check. We will check them first, and then after that, if they go king to d7 or king to d8, well, it's mate in 1, because if king to d7, well then folks, queen e7 is mate. But if king to d8 were to happen, well then folks, that's still mate in 1. And so folks, what if they don't go to those both squares and instead cover? Well, of course, we're just gonna win, because after knight to f6, king to d8, queen to d6, well then folks, we're just having this very good fork. And not only that, if the next move that we're gonna blow to, because after this knight move, we're just gonna consume the knight, and then they cannot do anything, because after bishop takes knight, well then folks, they're gonna go rook to e8, And then after that, we're gonna take the pawn on c6. And after that, the best response according to this position, they have plus 3 points. So keep in mind that they will go and take the rook on d1. And if they do that, we're gonna go and take the queen, because that's the best response that the opponent does have. So there's no choice but instead to take the rook. And not only that, we're winning in the game plus 1.5 points. And according to computer, will win completely. If they go bishop to e7 instead, which is a smarter move, they might think, well then folks, it's a very good trap for them, because after knight to f7, if they go knight to f7, which is a big trap for them attacking our queen, they might be tempted to do that because a lot of people will do that. And if they do, well then folks, we're gonna go knight to d6, and that checks the king. The only square they might go to is here or here. If here, that's checkmate, and if here, then that's also mate with queen to f7. And so folks, that is it for this video. 5 checkmates. There you have it. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, please subscribe and like. And if you learned something, please also ring the bell so that you can learn some more stuff when I upload some more videos. See you guys in the next video. This Gambit is so aggressive. I don't know why. See you guys in the next video. Peace out.